Welcome to my living room. Great to see you all again. Fantastic that I know we have people from sort of all over the country, which was kind of a fun thing from hearing this last time. I'm just going to do one quick little thing here. So tonight this is our second part of our series, which is we have strong, stride, and stretch. And each component, we're kind of building on the last component. Last time we were together, we were talking about strength and the importance of strength. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then we'll talk a little bit about what stride is as it relates to sort of our overall body health. And then next time we're going to do really hyper focus on stretching, which of course is so important to sort of overall health. When we think of sort of healthy body and what it means to have a healthy body, we never know what we're prepping for. Many of us, I am also a cancer survivor. We don't know, in preparation ahead of time, if we knew that we were going to have cancer, would we have prepped our bodies in a certain way? I mean, we just don't know what we're getting in shape for, right? You don't know how your body is going to respond when there is some sort of trauma, whether it's cancer or some other sort of, a trauma that may happen, whether it's going to be an accident or such. Your body's going to respond in a certain way depending on how strong you are, how flexible you are, how much lean body mass you have, and then, how does that relate to just everyday activities? Everybody's definition of a healthy body is going to be different. I say, you want to be functionally fit for what you want to do. And functionally fit for one person may be just being able to pick up their grandkids, being able to walk up a set of stairs so they don't get tired, being able to take a walking tour through England, whatever is on your list of being functionally fit, we want to prep you to get into that space. So preparation is the key, and sort of being persistent and kind of keeping at it and doing these things. If it's not every day, then it's sort of working it into a routine so that you're doing and taking care of yourself throughout the week. So when we think about healthy body, we break it down into strong is really focusing on our muscles. And the muscles are important because when we take a look at what we call lean body mass, the body composition is everything that's within your body, and that's your skin, your bone, your muscle, your fat. We are 75% water, so you've got this whole group of things that are within what we call body composition. Lean body mass or muscle is the biggest driver of how many calories you burn at rest. And it is roughly 80% of the calories you burn at rest. So at rest would be how many calories you need within a 24-hour period. If you're laying in bed for that 24-hour period, your lean body mass, or the amount of muscle that you have on, determines how many calories you're burning. So about 10% of the calories that you burn on a daily basis is on activity. And we'll talk a little bit about activity tonight, which is sort of the stride part of our three-part series, and what that means. And then the other 10%, so we have 80% is muscle mass, 10% is the amount of activity that you do, that's walking and physically pulling and pushing and all those things. And then about 8 to 10% is thermodynamics. So when you eat food, your body actually burns calories digesting the food. So you've got this little motor that's running, and you are burning calories just by the sake of eating. So everyone's like, great, I'm burning calories eating. Well, it's just a small portion of how many calories you burn in the course of the day. So the big thing is that you're trying to build as much lean body mass and have and maintain that on your frame throughout your lifetime. You don't want to lose lean body mass. as we age, we generally, most people, our metabolism goes down about 100 calories per decade. So at the age of 50, it's X. At the age of 60, it's 100 calories less. This is per day. And then so on and so on. And what happens is, as we age, a lot of times we become sedentary, right? So our metabolism has slowed down slightly. We've slowed down slightly. But in some cases, if you are still eating the same amount that you did, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, then you'll start to see this sort of gradual weight change. And to change that dynamic, the biggest thing you can do is to put on muscle mass. And muscle mass literally is lifting weights, challenging your body in some way, form, or fashion. Last time we kind of talked about different things and different tools you can use to help you do strength training. And you don't need a ton of accessories. You can do body weight training, some strength training with some bands, and I'll show you some examples of that. But the big key thing is that you're trying to build as much lean body mass as possible. And I mentioned it last time that there's these huge meta studies that are out on how important lean body mass is, especially for cancer survivors, especially for breast cancer survivors, in that you want to have as much lean body mass as possible in order to maintain a healthy body composition, and you want to have low body fat and high lean body mass. So those are two things to kind of keep in mind. One thing that we do at the Peninsula JCC, which is where I work, we have a breast cancer exercise program called the Pink Power Program. And that's where women come in and they get personal training with an individual trainer. We basically do a fitness evaluation at the beginning, and we use a machine called the InBody. It's like a Tanita scale where you're holding on, you've got your hands on it, you've got your feet on it, and it's about 45 seconds, and it tells us literally how much lean body mass you have in your right arm, left arm, torso, right leg, left leg. It's fascinating. And then from that, it'll tell us exactly how many calories you're burning at rest. That we use as a baseline to kind of set the program and then design a program based around that, and then what your goals are and what's happening with the surgery side. So we use those tools to tell us exactly how much lean body mass you have. If you're out in the world and you go to the doctor and they say, oh, your BMI is too high. Well, BMI is height to weight ratio. That doesn't really tell us much, because you could have a lot of lean body mass, which is incredibly heavy, because muscle is about 75% water. Your scale weight's going to be high, right? So you could be heavier on the scale, but very fit. So it's really important to kind of get this idea of exactly how much lean body mass you have. And this InBody machine is one of the few machines that's out there on the marketplace where you can really see what that is. If anybody's interested in coming in and doing just the test, if they didn't want to do the program, that is available. You can contact me and we'll put my contact information in under the chat. So lean body mass is really what we focused on predominantly in that first presentation. We'll touch on just doing some exercises that'll incorporate that. Exercises, again, we're doing all we can do to kind of do our strength training exercises. So we'll touch on that as well. In the course of sort of how we're burning calories, we think about the types of activities that we're doing. As I mentioned, the number of calories that you burn in the course of the day, majority of that is determined by your muscle mass. Well, this other sort of 10% is based on activity. And general activity would be like walking and biking and sort of like this light activity. If you're trying to up the ante and really make a difference in terms of the number of calories that you're burning in the course of a day, you're going to want to get your heart rate up at a fairly high level. And so in 1966, Dr. Kenneth Cooper, who's considered sort of the doctor, the father of aerobics, he coined the term aerobics. And aerobic is living with air, which is nice. We need to live with air. You put an S on the end of it, and, you know, took a look at the aerobic activities that we do. And we know that certain activities are going to bring your heart rate up much higher, right? It's going to be harder for you to participate in those activities, especially if you haven't been doing an activity for a period of time. In general, when people come into the center at the J, you know, it's that first time they're in, they try to go as long as they can, but they can't. They go 5 minutes and they're like, oh, wow, that's just too much. You've got to work your way up. I mean, the heart is a muscle and you're trying to condition that just like you would be conditioning your legs. And so you want to think about warming up slowly, getting the heart at a steady state, trying to maintain that state for a period of time, at least 20 minutes, and then a cool down. So how hard you work is going to give you that sort of relative sort of what we call perceived rate of exertion, but it's going to give you, we're going to work into what we call that prime zone. How you measure how hard you're working, if you're out walking hills or if you're out biking, and you don't have a heart rate monitor on, you don't know what your heart rate is. Think of it as what we call the perceived rate of exertion. So it's on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is sort of like this minimal effort. You're not really doing much. It's just sort of, you know, don't have any problem with it. 10 is your maximum effort. You're running stadium steps at the height. You know, in the middle is sort of that 5, 6, 7. And if you think about 5, well, you start to kind of feel like you're getting a little bit out of breath. 6 is you can have a conversation with somebody that you're walking with, but it becomes a little more difficult, but you still can do it. 7 is, it's definitely becoming a little more difficult to have or maintain a conversation. So that's sort of a talk test as well. So that 6 and 7 is really where you want to be. And that is your target heart rate zone that we want you to be in. And you want to stay in that zone for about 20 minutes. But again, if you haven't been exercising, haven't been working out, it's a little harder to try to get to that space. So we usually say, all right, you're going to work your way up to getting into the sort of the 6, 7 zone by slowly or gradually working out. So take a look at the activities that you do and what you can do to kind of ramp them up. You know, interesting thing is that when you use your arms and you bring them above your heart, so you're doing an activity, whether it's walking, right, or jogging, or you start to bring your arms up above your heart rate, it'll increase your heart rate by 30%. Jane Fonda, when they started doing the Jane Fonda workout, jazzercise, they realized that bringing their arms up above the heart brought the heart rate up that much more. So think about how, with the activities that you do, how can you start to get your heart rate up a little bit higher, right? How can you lengthen out this length of time of when you're exercising so that you are hitting that stride, you're hitting that zone? According to the American College of Sports Medicine, it's like, how much of that exercise do we need to do on a weekly basis to be healthy? The recommendation is that you want to do 5 days a week at 30 minutes of activity. And it's that heart rate, sort of at that 5, 6, 7, more like a 5 or 6 level, right? So it's like that moderate level, 5 days a week. That's the recommendation. If you're going to do vigorous, which would be more about in that 7 category, you can do that 3 times a week for 20 minutes. But, a lot of people are just not getting that level of activity. It's sort of like you have to kind of force yourself to do it. But it's so, so key for heart health, right? Heart health is you go up a set of stairs and you're completely out of breath, but you've got to sort of tick at it and try to go slow and try to get it going so that you can maintain this over the course of time, so that we can try to have it, over a long period of time, so that you are conditioning yourself to really be pushing it. a lot of people during COVID, were out walking. They were like, well, the one thing that I was doing was I was walking. How were you walking? Was it a leisurely stroll? Were you walking your new pet, which is now, going to every single bush? So it's not really at that sort of, vigorous sort of 6 and 7. It's more like the 2, 3, it's like a mild stroll. Really dedicate time at that higher level. It's going to make a big difference as far as conditioning the heart. And again, start off slow, do a little warm up, work your way in, and kind of push yourself to get to a higher level. Okay. So the perceived rate of exertion is something you can use. You can also use a heart rate monitor. Some watches, I've got a newfangled watch that tells me what my heart rate is on the watch itself. Fitbit will show you. Heart rate training is I think it's really, to me, it's really interesting because I can see exactly how I'm responding to the activity. But for anybody, you don't have to have a heart rate monitor. You can basically use that perceived rate of exertion and then, apply it when you are hiking. If you are part of a health club, take a look and see. Most machines now will have a heart rate monitor on the machines, whether it's a bike or a treadmill. And take a look at where your heart rate is. And then think about, okay, without looking at the heart rate monitor, how do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? A lot of times when I ask my clients that, so they're walking on the treadmill and I ask them, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 is the stadium steps and 1 is this sort of, super low. Most people are not really connected to their bodies. They're thinking, I don't really know how I feel. Think about the talk test. Can I speak clearly and not have any problem speaking? Yeah, you're probably closer to a 5. Am I now, if I'm having a conversation, if I'm having a difficult time speaking, you're getting closer to that 6 or 7. So that's a pretty simple sort of way of looking at it. But I think it's going to help you if you're out and about, you're walking with friends and you're like, God, my heart rate went up really high. Figure out where or what that means. Do you need to back down a little bit so that you bring your heart rate down, but continue to walk? That's generally what we want you to do. We don't want you to, you don't want to stop. If your heart rate gets really high, you do not want to stop, okay? Because that creates blood pooling, and that pulls blood away from your heart. And if you're going to have an incident, heart attack or such, that could be the time that you do it. So anytime, let's say you're walking, your heart rate gets up really high, slow, and you're feeling super uncomfortable, you feel like you're dizzy, slowly walk it out, but do not stop immediately, of course, unless you're going to faint, and then you want to sit down, put your knees between your knees, your head between your knees. So those are sort of like the precautionary sort of things to think about when you're out and about working on your cardio. And then basic sort of weight loss formulas. So this activity that we know that we do does burn a certain amount of calories. And I tell everybody that if you're looking to lose weight, down and dirty, the easiest thing to do without counting any calories is just to get an idea of what is 250 calories of activity per day. And that's about a 45-minute, maybe an hour walk for an individual. So it can be 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast or slow you're going. So let's say that's 250 calories of activity. So you've got the 250 calories of activity that you are participating in. If you kept the same exact diet that you had today without changing a single thing, right? Every single thing that you're eating today, that you ate about 250 calories less. And that's just a few less bites, maybe that's less, a little bit of alcohol, whatever it is, it's within the current diet that you're eating. So you got this sort of increase in activity by 250 calories, decrease food by 250 calories. You have now what we have is this 500 calorie deficit in the course of a day. If you maintained that over the course of a week, you would lose a pound a week. And it's a very easy, simple way of doing it. You don't have to sit there and count a lot of calories. You don't have to worry about the keto diet. You don't have to worry about all these crazy diets. All you need to do is just have a little bit less of what you're eating at home without changing your diet. Just a little bit less, a few less bites, 250 calories less, while bringing up your daily activity by 250 calories. So that'll help you sort of think about, I can make some choices. If I know that it's going to be a little more calorific weekend, we're going to have, you know, opportunity to, you know, eat more, then help yourself out by getting a little more activity in to offset some of the calories, you know. So it's over the course of the week. Don't think that because you had one day that didn't turn out so well that you're just basically not gonna, you know, oh, that's it, I'm done, I can't really do this. It really takes a long time to kind of progressively do it. Once you get into that mindset, it'll help you to kind of focus on, it's, you know, that mindfulness of how are you eating, what are you eating, are you calm when you're eating, are you just sort of like, you know, shoveling food in, try to be mindful, keep everything nice and slow, drink some water prior to, it's just going to help. All these little things are going to help, but it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm depriving myself of all these things. I'm just going to have a little bit less and I'm going to increase my activity. So that brings us to our activity. So we're going to start to do a little bit of a warm up. I'm going to move the cat out of the way, right? She's right in the middle of the dance floor here. She doesn't like that. And we'll start off with, you have some space in your area. Today we're going to be using the chair for a bit. We're going to try to use either hand weights, or you can use rubber band or pantyhose or the rubber band for doing some strengthening exercises. So we're going to do movement as well as a little bit of cardio. The first thing we're going to do is start off with what we call a modified jack. So you're standing here in place, and so I want you to think about stepping to the side and bringing the arms up. Remember now, we're going to move those arms above our head and really try to rock it out the action. The important thing is kind of feel where you are in your space. How do all your little elements feel? You know, how do your knees feel? I mean, we have to warm the body up before we can really feel completely comfortable. And generally you want to kind of do like a 2 to 3 minute warm up to feel like you're raising the temperature of your body, right? So bring the arms above your head and start to think about your breath work. And is this already starting to create an increase in your heart rate? You know, and if that, well, I'll start to ask you as well, where are you on your perceived rate of exertion? Okay, so that's the modified jumping jack. Okay, the jig is just going to be this little toe tap thing where you're kind of like kicking your toes out, right? We want to, again, remember, move the arms so that the arms are above the heart. Hands, arms above the heart is going to increase your heart rate by 30%. Now you're starting to wonder, some of these classes that you may be taking online, or you see people doing classes, and you're wondering, oh, that's why. That is why they are using their arms. All right, so use your arms, think about that. Next thing we're going to do is this, what I call the skating move. And what I want you to do is think about pretending that you are skating. And you don't have to hop. We're just going to move from side to side and think about flipping that one leg out. You can touch the toe down, or you can float the foot to be a bit of a balance move. So it's like you're frozen in time, and see if you can stop yourself by doing the action, right? So again, moving the arms, getting the arms moving side to side. Think about how your balance is. Is this easy as far as like stopping the action and balancing, or is it hard? If it's hard, just practice how to do this sort of frozen movement. And it's interesting, it's like once you flip the leg pretty far out to the side, it does counterbalance your move. So again, moving the arms side to side, swinging freely. Sweet, that's our skater move. All right, alpine skier. Just got back from this big ski trip, so we're gonna do our little preparation. We're getting ready for the next round of the Olympics. Your thighs are together and your chest is going to come down towards your thighs. So you're going to be sort of in this little squatty position. And we'll start off with just one side, one leg, and you're keeping your weight on one leg. And I just want you to tap your toe out. So we're weighting this one leg, tapping the toe out. So everything stays really quiet, and we're going to the side-to-side tap. This one can be challenging in that balance-wise, strength-wise, you're going to know pretty quickly when you're doing sort of one side versus the other. One may be stronger, one side's usually stronger than the other. Okay, so we'll switch sides, tap out that leg. Right, so you're kind of doing this little tap. We're weighting this leg. If you need to hang on here, you can do that. If that's too much, you can also, if you need to, have your hand on the wall, you can do that. Again, we're just going tapping out side to side. We'll do another one. Again, back out, tapping. For me on this, it's like the left side, which is this side, is a little easier than doing it on the right side. I had meniscus surgery on this side, so it's a little harder. I just have to kind of challenge myself to really, or force myself to do it. I like doing independent action, one leg versus the other leg, so I can see which side is weaker. This is especially important if we've got a surgery side on one side versus the other. We definitely want to strengthen both sides. Okay, next thing is going to be a box step. So when we think about a box step, we want to go in and out of the box. So I'm stepping sort of into the box with both feet. I want to keep my feet parallel, right? Just like I've got these sort of parallel skis. So I'm bringing the big foot in and out of the box like I'm going over hurdles. Generally, when I do this with clients, they will get one leg over and then they'll just slide the other leg over. But I really want stepping in and out of the box on both sides, keeping the feet parallel. So in and out, start to warm up the hips, glutes, whoop, whoop, in and out of our lovely box. Okay, back to the beginning. Modified jack. We'll do this rotation one more time. So start in the middle, do our little jack. And it's a little bit like a side lunge with the arms. Maybe this time around when you're doing it, it's a little easier, right? Because you warm the body up. Maybe this time feels like, oh, this isn't not quite as, oh, everything's kind of moving around. I'm getting the blood flowing into the joints. I don't know if anybody saw the article in the New York Times about stiffness in the morning. Why do I feel stiff in the morning? And it was really interesting. It was just talking about the blood flow within the fascia and the tendons, and how, in those areas, there's very little capillary action. So there's not great blood flow. So when you wake up in the morning, you want to do like my cat, you want to get up and stretch, just so you can elongate all of those tendons and muscles. You want to try and get the blood flowing to those areas. Similar when you're doing a warm-up. Now it just feels like things are a little bit easier to the do. All right, the jig. Kick the cat. No, I didn't mean that. Kick the toes up. A lot of times too, I like to do this sort of toe tap where you're really flexing the foot. So the toe is pointed up. I find that people who have neuropathy, right, start to do that sort of shuffle where you're not doing the heel toe action. And this starts to sort of work on that where you're working on your heel strike. So this is like a little bit of a practice thing. If you find somebody that you know that isn't doing a heel strike, this is a good one to do. So you're really exaggerating this kind of kicking the toe up towards the sky, leading with the heel down. So it's a good practice for somebody to do that, okay? All right, excuse me, I'm just gonna get a sip. My pickle juice. Oh. Miracle pickle juice. Skater. Now, again, first one, maybe you didn't do the frozen in time skater. So think about how you can stop the action, right? So you're kind of swinging from one side to the other, really getting those arms in. If you want to go faster, you can go faster. If you want to have a bigger hop, you can. Just depends on everybody's joints. What feels comfortable for you? So a nice big skater. Boop, boop. Alpine skier toe tap. So we're in our little down to the alpine skier. And really, truly, alpine skier is, I like to get really low, come down and have the arms out. We're just going to do sort of a modified chair pose version. So again, pick a side, whatever side that is probably your weaker side, start with that. Try to keep the weight on that one foot, on that one side. See if it's any easier than the first time. Nice. Back to the other side. Boom, boom. Nice. We'll do this one more time on this. So tap it out. Super, super. Last one here. Cool. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is shoulder press. And you don't have to have any weight to do this. If you want to have either hand weights or the cans, you know, you can use cans. You can also use, last time we made a show, I think I showed you how to make, it's the pantyhose stretchy band, right? Or a TheraBand, or rubber band with handles. All of these are really good tools. Again, you don't really need anything too, too extreme. So what we're going to do is take the band and have it in our hands, and you can have a closed palm around, or you can do open palm, and we're going to do a squat push. So basically, we're going to do a nice squat, and I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. Squat is really, you want to keep the belly button in and the butt backwards, right? So when you do a squat, you don't want to be tipping over one way or the other. So it's really about getting the butt back as far as you can go. So you're squatting, and then you're pressing up. And then squat and press up. Now, you don't have to use the band. You can just do this without any weight whatsoever. So imagine you have if you don't have your dumbbells with you, so you've got your hands here, you're gonna squat and then press up, okay? So it's really important just to work on that sort of squat and pressing up. When I think about proper squat, I really want to be looking up, keeping the chest high and then pressing up. Again, you don't have to go through anything too quickly. It's more about good form, right? So squat, press up, and then squat and press up. Good. So that is a squat shoulder press. And then the next one is going to be here, side lunge into a chair. And again, I don't have to have hand weights for this. So if you want to do hand weights, I've got hand weights, but the action really is a little bit like what we did before with the modified jack, but it's kind of a cheerleading move, as they say. So your feet are in the middle and you're gonna take a side step, right? I've got my little pom-poms, and then I'm gonna press up into the air. Again, I'm gonna try and balance, right? So see if you can balance as you're going through the action. So take a side step here, come up into a balance, right? So here, and then up into a balance. I didn't really do a very good balance. Focus on it, just nice and, I almost like to do it super slow. And think about pushing up through. So side step into a balance, and then we switch sides, right? Side step into a balance, side step, balance, whoop, up, side step, up. It's really about using both sides, figuring out which side feels more comfortable than the other side. A lot of times, again, as I said, right side, right-handed, left-handed, you're going to be stronger on one side than you are on the other side, okay? So side stepping is really good for the glutes, and it's great to, again, move the arms above the head. So if we do this in sort of repetitive fashion, and you're doing it and on top of the other exercises with your arms above your head, right? So we're doing this press out through, you're probably going to start to get your heart rate up as you go through. So start to check in, okay, how does that feel as far as my perceived rate of exertion? Am I starting to feel like my heart rate's going up? So think about that. So side step and then come on up, side step. Okay, reverse lunge is a strict step back. And lunges, we talked about last time that you can never, ever go through lunges and review them. I cannot review them enough. I mean, lunges are really great. It's like a plank, but most people do them incorrectly. So we do reverse lunging, which makes it's just way easier. So take a stride back. When you stride back, you want to make sure that the front leg is at 90 and the back leg, you're just sort of slightly dipping down. So then come up. We'll stay on the same leg. So we're going to take one leg back and then come on up. You can start to move your hands in if you like and move them above your head if you wish. Again, to kind of get that action of increasing our heart rate as you're going through the motion. But make sure that you're doing it slow enough so that you don't throw off your balance, because you want to make sure that you're balancing as well. And again, you may find that this is, you just want to focus on the lunge, right? And then come back up. So we do a back step and come back up. One more here, and then back up. And I'll switch sides so you can see it on this side. So again, we're going to switch legs. So reverse and then step up. I feel more comfortable like moving my arms just to sort of counterbalance. It's like you're a runner and you're doing your stride where you're doing opposite arm to opposite leg. It just feels more natural. But you can have your hands on your hips if that feels better. And if you can't do these sort of like in a window or with a mirror or in front of the TV without the TV being on, you can see where your alignment is. You know, are you in that 90 in the front and that action in the back in terms of a slight bend in the leg? Reverse lunge, again, awesome for the lower body. So as many reverse lunges as you can do. Front lunge is great. It's just that I usually find that people go too far forward in the front. So you're putting a lot of tension on the knee, right? So reverse is gonna try to alleviate that a little bit. Okay, straight leg kick. Again, we want to try and, this could be either a warm up or part of walking, right? So you could do this sort of walking, but because we're just sort of sitting in one spot, we're gonna do where we bring the legs up to the hands. If your hamstrings are super tight, this also could be challenging. But try to bring the legs up as high as you can. Keep the arms up in between. I like to use this, and then you can also hands to the inside of your foot. So inside to the foot starts to warm up the adductors. You can do this as you're walking. People won't think that you're too crazy, just enough. So that's the inside to the foot or straight leg. Now the straight leg, the nice thing about the straight leg, again, when we did the inside, it was the adductor, so we're starting to work on the inside muscles. Straight leg is going to give us a little more action across on the quads, right? So anytime we have that foot flexed out, like that straight up, is going to work on our quad strength. So straight leg works on that quad, and then it also works on the balance. Winging yourself around. Perfect. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is a row, standing row. When you're doing any kind of rowing action, again, you can use a can or a weight, whatever the weight is going to be. So this is my hand weight. I'm going to do a one arm, or you can do two arms, row action. We can also do it with a band. So it really just depends on what your device is that you're using. The big thing where you're doing any kind of bent row is you want to think about keeping the arms at the side, at your side. So I've got my hands down here, and I want to think about sawing a log. And I'm just drawing my arm straight up. I want to drive that elbow up as high as possible. So if I'm going to do it on both sides, I'm going to be here. Elbows are going to be in nice and tight to the body. So I'm not bringing them out. I'm just dragging them up. It's almost like they're touching the side of my body, and I'm bringing them straight up. If you're going to do a one arm row, it's just the same thing. Instead of doing both arms, I'm just going to do one at a time. So I'm just going to bring this up one at a time. Sometimes if the weight is heavier, it's easier doing it one at a time. You know, you've got your hand down on one side, kind of bracing, whether it's going to be on a chair, you can just pull up one action at a time. So that is a one arm row, okay? Or you can use two at the same time, okay? So we're sort of drawing up and doing two at the same time. Next thing is going to be in the same sort of vein. Again, I've got my knees bent. I'm in this sort of squatty position, what I call either it's like a chair pose or an alpine skier pose. And I'm going to do a reverse fly. Reverse fly is this sort of Hulk. We covered this last time. And again, hearing these exercises several times always is a good thing. So upper back strength is key, right? And we're going to lead with the elbows and kind of draw up. You can pause ever so slightly and then bring together. And you're really hinging at the joint here, bringing it up, driving with the elbows and bringing it back down. And you don't have to have a lot of weight in your hands, because you'll find that even just the weight of your arms sometimes can give you enough of a strength, feel like you're carrying a fair amount of weight. And especially if you're in this bent over position, because you're fighting gravity, that you're really feeling like you're actually getting a little bit of a workout, or challenge yourself to go a little heavier on the weight. And the other thing you can do is just pause top. So we're just going to pause there, squeeze those shoulder blades together, and then come back down. Reverse fly is just so good for the back, right? Key thing that when you're in that position is that you want to make sure that your core is nice and tight. So keep your belly button nice and tucked in. So everything is kind of quiet and pulled in and tucked in. And then the only thing that you're moving is you're hinging there with the elbows. So you're hinging sort of in that front spot, right? Kind of reverse fly. Perfect. All right. Bicep and tricep. Biceps and triceps, so we always want to include the biceps and the triceps. Those are sort of like large action groups. Of course, when we're doing the back, shoulders, and such, those are larger muscle groups. Biceps and triceps are key to good strength in the arms. Triceps are going to be back of the arm, biceps going to be in the front of the arm. So now we're going to use our rubber band. We're going to be, again, I like to be in this sort of squatty position, sort of sitting here. Elbows are tucked in nice and tight. And I can either have a weight in my hand, or I can have this rubber band in my hand. You want to be pulling on something. So again, I'm in this sort of seated position and I'm drawing up. The key thing when you're doing a bicep curl is that you don't want to, I'm going to keep the upper part of my arm just super quiet. The only thing I'm moving is my forearm. The other thing I'm not doing is I'm not cracking my wrist. So if you can do open palm, which would alleviate you from cracking your wrist or breaking the wrist, because that just aggravates the forearms. So you just want to have it so that it's all one unit, right? So that's the tricep, the bicep. Tricep with a band or with weights in our hands. So imagine I have the weights in my hands. I'm going to do a kickback, and it's similar action where I'm in this sort of, again, I'm working my legs as well as my arms. Whenever I'm in this sort of like squatty position, I'm doing 2 for 1. So I'm in the squatty position. I'm going to do a kickback. So my elbows are going to be up nice and high. And then I'm going to kick my arms straight back. So everything is really quiet except the forearm. So I'm not moving my arms or my shoulders. And my elbows are going to start off really high, and then I'm just straightening my arms up as I kick them back. And then you can do this with a rubber band as well. So now I have the rubber band is here, and I'm kicking it back. So I've got a little tension on the strap. So that's one way of doing it as well. I like that as a kickback. Or I think we did this last time where you've got the rubber band holding onto it, and then I'm straightening out or back. Same sort of action, it's just sort of a slightly different angle, right? But it's that up into the air kind of action. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing with the chair. We're going to do some the plank. And then the bent arm plank. And then we'll have some time for Q&A, because I think we have only a few more minutes. So modified Planks are really excellent, and you can do this on a chair, you can do this on the couch, on the bed. And as far as the core is concerned, the plank is probably one of the best things you can do. So straight arm plank, when you think about doing a plank, you're going to want to have your hands right underneath your shoulders, and then you're going to walk yourself back, and my hands are right in line with my shoulders. So that's a straight arm plank. And you don't want to bend, in this action initially, we don't want to bend anything. We just want to keep it so that we're keeping our shoulders nice and solid. If I'm coming down into a regular forearm plank, I'm doing the same thing. My elbow is right in line with my shoulder, and I'm just holding that plank action. You're coming back up. Tricep exercise that I like to do is just to come down and hold halfway down. So now I have my elbows out to the side, and I'm really working the triceps. So I'm just sitting here holding it in that bent arm fashion. All right. We will finish there.